Hi everybody, it's Camille. A few weeks ago I had a chance to go to a conference on using case studies to teach the sciences in Buffalo, New York, and I wanted to share a little bit about what I learned in case it's helpful to other faculty. So the whole premise of this conference is essentially that we know lecturing doesn't really work for long-term retention, interaction with the material, and even really for stimulating critical thinking most of the time. So especially with the sciences, when we have content that we really need to cover, especially in prerequisite classes where future classes are going to build on that information or students are going to be tested on a licensing exam or so forth, we really need to cover content, but how can we do that in a way that doesn't involve lecturing at the students? And one of the big points of this conference was that covering material by either saying it out loud or having the students read it does not equal learning. The students haven't necessarily learned it just because you've said it. So we need to think about what do we need our students to learn and what are the ways we can do that. The concept of the flipped classroom, I think most people are familiar with, and case studies are one possibility. If you flip your classroom and have the students read or watch videos about the basic information as their homework, then you can come into class and use case studies to engage with the material. And when I say case studies, a lot of us, I think, in the health professions think of something you might write up for a journal, which would be, oh, so-and-so had this condition, and here's the intervention that I did, the herb, the acupuncture treatment, the whatever it is, and here were the outcomes. And these case studies are a little bit different. They're teaching case studies, which are small scenarios, usually based on, kind of a real person, interspersed with questions that are designed to help the students think through the background. And let me just show you an example here. So this conference I went to was sponsored by the National Center for Case Study Teaching in Science, and they have a whole case collection where you can search for cases, and they're really on everything from nutrition to biochemistry to organic chemistry to ecology to physiology, pathophysiology. So almost any science-related topic you can think of, you can find a case about it. I pulled up one example of a case here, which is one about immunology. And this is a case study where essentially they start out with some basic information about food allergy, anaphylaxis, IgE reactions, and so forth. And so there'll be questions for the students to answer, like what is the difference between an allergen and an antigen? What is anaphylaxis? And what is a mast cell, and how are they related to the immune response? So hopefully if the students have done their background reading or video watching or whatever it is, they will be able to answer those questions. If not, they have their computers or their smartphones or whatever it is, their textbooks with them, so they can look it up in class. And then after that, it goes into a case presentation of this person who is having all these different issues, and then on top of that, he has a allergy, a peanut-based allergy. He has an anaphylactic situation. And so then we start talking about what is HLA and how does it relate to MHC and immune physiology? How does that relate to this case? What is the patient just had a transplant, so what do we know about that person's immune system after the transplant, and so forth. So essentially we're walking the students through some of the physiology related to this case. So instead of sitting up there and telling them, and when somebody has anaphylaxis, here's what happens and here's why that's dangerous, we're making them look up the answers, and we're facilitating the process. So there's a number of different ways that you could use this in your class. You can have students get into small groups and do group work during your class time. You can have them do group work as homework. You can have them do them individually and then check with groups. You can use these as exams and so forth. Now, there were a number of people who, at this case study conference, who use case studies almost exclusively as their classroom content. So they did, most of the time when they were with the students, they were facilitating small groups of students or pairs working on these case studies. And as I mentioned, there are hundreds in that library that are free for you to use. If you want, they actually have the answer keys. If you register and prove that you are a faculty member, you can get the answer keys as well to help the students. And it was interesting to me, one person was reporting He had been using these for a decade or more, and he was reporting that one semester he decided he has similar sections of the same class. So he decided to do one of them with lecture and one with case studies as the face-to-face material. And he found that on the final exam, the scores of the two sections were about the same. But then when he went back and retested, he said he had bribed them with food, but when he went back and retested people from those same two sections, I believe it was a year later, I can't remember exactly, it was 6 months or a year later, he found out that it was almost as if the people in the lecture section had never even taken the course, whereas the people in the case study section were able to retain and continue working with that material. So in terms of long-term interaction and deep learning of the material, it seems like case studies are one possibility. So that's just a basic introduction. I've been using case studies just this semester in one of my online classes, 647B, which is a 3-credit pathophys class. And I'm doing, the students are working on them individually, and then once they complete a draft, they can talk to one another and come up with answers and then resubmit another version before the deadline. So I'll keep you posted on how that's going, but I think this is a really interesting possibility for both our face-to-face and online classes. And something we should be considering is, do we want to go with the lecture model? And if not, what are some alternatives? And I think this is definitely something to be looking at. All right, I'm going to do a couple more videos. I hope that one was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.